everyone, welcome to this kind of short video on how I use Notion, how you can use Notion as well to level up your bug bounty notes. So this is not sponsored by Notion. I just really like the software. I've included below a link, like a referral link, but I should say up front, I don't get any money from that because I'm on the free student plan. But if you are a student and you have a .edu or .ac.uk email address, you can also get Notion for free. It's fairly affordable at the price point. It's about $4 a month, but it's well worth it. It's probably one of the best note-taking apps. Like, I've tried a lot of note-taking apps. I just recently migrated from Evernote. I use a lot of task tracking apps. I've moved from Todoist to OmniFocus. But actually now I just use Notion. This is one of my favorite pieces of software. I don't just use it for bug bounties. I use it for my PhD, managing my YouTube channel, some of my hobbies, some personal kind of stuff, and reading lists of stuff I want to read and keep track of. So I really, really do like this piece of software. And what I'm going to be showing you today is I'm going to show you some basic features of Notion. So nothing like, here's how you do this really amazing thing. There are some amazing videos out there, not by me, that go over this in way more detail. It's going to be a kind of whirlwind tour of why Notion is cool. But what I wanted to focus on was this bug bounty template I've made. Now, if you want to try out Notion, you want to try out this template, all you need to do is look at the links below, copy it, duplicate the template, and then you're off. So that will be the bug bounty template. So I want to first show you how Notion works, but I'm sure if you're interested, you'll probably give it a go yourself. It's one of those things that you really have to experience for yourself. So fundamentally, what is Notion? Notion is a note-taking app, but it's more than that. It is a note-taking app, which is kind of really what it is it's a drag and drop dashboard app disguised as a note-taking app. It's like drag and drop web development is the kind of level of coolness this is. So let's have a look at it. So this is a basic Notion page. You can see we've got a title and we've got some options here. So let's just start by making a basic notebook. So I'm going to give it a title here. And we might add a list of, my notes. And then we might do some, other notes. And, we can do stuff like change the text to headings. We can add lists. We can add toggles. We can add quotes. And we can do all kinds of things. Like, you can kind of see how this is your standard note-taking app here. And you can embed things. It's got support for embedding Google Maps, links, videos, files, GitHub stuff, ton of different things, PDFs. There's a bunch of them. So that's kind of the basic level of Notion. The thing is that Notion doesn't just stop there. So Notion has a ton of other really cool features. So it has to-do list items. So, wash the cat, wash the car, and wash the can. And then we can tick them off, right? Very basic. So what makes Notion kind of more than most other things is that it has these really cool functionalities. First one I'm going to show you is template, and the second one is going to be databases. So let's look at template. So what this allows you to do is to drag in your items here, and then it will clone them. And you can drag in all kinds of different things here, and we'll see how I use this in my template. So that's really cool. You can just make elements on the fly. Maybe you just want generic to-do list button, and you can do that too. But this can be done, like, we can take the entire thing here, pop it in this like that. And we can clone that too. So that's kind of one of the really cool bits, and what kind of makes it better for me than most other note-taking apps is it has functionality like that. And it has other really good functionality as well. So one of the things I really like is that you can turn it into a dashboard. So here we have our basic notebook, and you know, in something like Evernote or OneNote, you might just start typing notes here and maybe having something on the side, whatever. But in this, you can also have sub-notebooks, which then appear here. Okay, so if you have a collection of sub-notes, you get this, which is where you get this kind of dashboard effect. Now, this is my actual dashboard. I don't like doing work a lot, so it's got the groaning blob. And you can see how each one of these is clickable. And we can click to that, and then we can click to our subnotes. And you know, we might want to add a little page within this, and then we might want to go another level deep and another level deep, and then we might want some breadcrumbs to get out. So you know, you can really see how this kind of becomes this like crazy kind of web app almost, right? You've got your own dashboard. But it doesn't stop there. So then you have databases. So databases are kind of these three main options. We have table, board, list, calendar, and gallery. And you might be thinking, okay, that seems reasonable. Here's the really cool thing. Let's say you want a Kanban board because you're doing some work, right? And you might go, actually, I don't want a Kanban board. Show me it as a list. And then we might have on the other side the status of it. Oh, it doesn't have a status because I haven't given it one. So we have our kind of generic Kanban board, and then we go into Untitled View, and actually we can see it now in kind of list. Or maybe we want to see it as a table. And maybe we want to see it as a gallery, right? So you can just use the same thing and visualize it in different ways. Okay, so let's say you prefer the like standard kind of just a status and list of tasks. You can then start to filter it. You can add filters, like maybe you want to have one view for unstarted tasks, and you want another one for ones you're completed, right? So you go here, you go status is completed and done. Now you can have both the not started and the complete stuff. And it just like, this gets better and better, right? You can, on one view, you can show the assign, or you can hide it. Maybe you don't need to see the assigned. Maybe you want to add something else here, like a URL or what have you. Basic kind of creating a table, and there's so much you can do here. And you can go back to your basic notebook, and you can see I've added another table here. So maybe you have like, you know, something else, and you want to add a relationship. You can add a relational database by just looking for your Kanban, like so. And we go here and we see we can now associate them with more, like so. And if we go back to Kanban, you can see the things it's related to as well. And this is why I really love Notion. It's so flexible. Like, it's unbelievably flexible. Originally, I was making kind of a web dashboard for my YouTube stuff, right? Had to play with Notion, completely scrapped the idea because I would just be building what Notion had built, but mine would be harder and I'd have to manage it. Notion just takes everything away. So that's kind of cool. Let's talk about bug bounties. So I hope you've kind of sold you on why this is a cool notebook. Now I want to show you what you can do with it. So I've said before I use this for my my own bug bounty stuff and my own, like my PhD and my YouTube channel. This is a clean version that doesn't have any of the data in of my other dashboards. So this is my dashboard. We've got its dark mode. I usually use light mode. You might be thinking I'll unsubscribe, but dark mode makes me sleepy. And if I have the light mode on, it helps me. It helps me stay awake. The burning of the eyes is a feature, not a bug. So let's talk about how to use Notion for bug bounty stuff. This is my template. If you want to use this, or maybe you don't, maybe you want to steal some parts of it but not others, I've included a link below. You just duplicate this to your account and then you'll have this version and you can start filling it up with your info. This is the dashboard. So we have a little cover item here, and we have a little bug, and I've kind of tried to keep the visual identity the same. I've also included a light mode option as well. I use light mode, but I know a lot of people don't like light mode, so I've also included the dark mode version. So we got some motivational quote here: go fast and break other people's things. Don't break things, break other people's things. And then we've got some links here. So one of the most important things to do when you become a bug bounty hunter, and if you really want to be good at it, is note-taking. Note-taking is so important. What you really don't want to do is to be thinking, 30 hours into something, oh, I'm sure I've heard that before. I'm sure I watched a video on that. I'm sure I've done a CTF with that exploit in it. Or maybe you're reading stuff passively. Maybe you just skim through a video and you're not really paying attention to what's being said. That is one of the worst mistakes you can make if you really want to get into bug bounties. Because you need to be able to constantly refer to your own notes. If you found a bug 3 months ago, are you really going to remember all the steps to exploit it? You might go on to HackerOne or BugCrowd and look at the report again, and you might have a look and go, yeah. But that report was written for a triager to reproduce, not for you to follow back your own thought process. So it's like, that's a kind of extreme example. How about something a little bit less extreme? If you're doing a CTF to practice a skill like GraphQL, if you have all your notes from the CTF, you'll have the kind of exploitation and how you exploited it, and maybe the syntax you used to use GraphQL. You can also say, well, I read this article on it. So note-taking is so important. I actually made a bug bounty tip the other day that was basically just, don't read things passively. Don't just read an article. Take notes. What do you think? Why do you think it? Was it kind of interesting? Maybe summarize the method used to achieve something. Taking notes, and especially taking notes on your own bugs, on your own targets, you'll really find that you'll just become better over time. You'll know what to look for. You'll know kind of what bugs you find are quite straightforward. You'll be able to really make those kind of big kind of chains and stuff, right? So let's talk about this. I hope I've sold you on taking notes. Let's talk about how to do it. So this is my very basic here dashboard. So it has not got any real data in it. This is all just fake data. But my actual dashboard does have real data. And it does have, real targets I want to hack. It has real notes. It has my CTF notes. This is just a clean version for you to copy. Alright, so the first thing we've got here are some links. Now, I'm going to talk through the dashboard first and then go back to that. So in order, we're going to do basic dashboard stuff, learn something new, and then we're going to talk about how to use it for bug hunting specifically. Okay, so let's start with the to-do list. This is a very basic to-do list. A lot of the times when you're bug hunting, you might want to throw something in like, subdomain stuff on Uber. And you just want to note down, maybe look for subdomain takeover. And then you might you might be thinking something else. Oh, I want to look up GraphQL, because you need to remind yourself of the syntax. This is a very simple to-do list that you can just tick stuff off of. Now, why is this front and center? This is because if I'm trying to hunt for bugs, this is where I'm looking. I'm either looking in the notes, and I'll explain that in a sec, or I'm looking at the to-do list and going through and going, okay, what do I want to do next? Like, what's my next thing going to be? And then below, I'm going to talk this through a little bit more. We have Go Hack Something, which just shows me, what private programs I'm in, what public programs I'm interested in, if I want to hack something, let's look at everything. So I'll go through that in a minute. Let's talk about learning. So the first thing I've got here is my learning roadmap. So this is presented as a Kanban board, and really I've got, XSS, and I've got, what I'm learning, when to review it by. Like, for this case, you want to be constantly saying, okay, I want to learn XSS, and you need to be making sure that what you do is you check that you're learning it. You want to check that actually you have achieved something. Maybe you've found an XSS, maybe you've completed a CTF. So that's my review by. So on April 20th, I'll look at this page again and go, you know what, I found a stored XSS this month. Even if it's a dupe, it's still an XSS, so give it a tick off. Some more specific tasks, I might go, I'll try out the XSS labs. Some motivation as to why I'm doing it. Like, I think it's really important if you're doing bug bounties to work out why you want to learn a certain technique. Like, XSS is something that happens a lot, right? But actually, it's a great bug class, but my skills are really lacking. I don't know how to bypass WAFs very well. Maybe I don't really understand DOM-based XSS. Maybe I don't really understand how chains work. So really having that motivation, like, why am I learning this, will help you when you come to reflect. So when you reflect, you can be like, this was my motivation. Have I really achieved anything more? Do I feel perhaps more confident with doing a DOM-based XSS? Looking at the task, did I submit XSSs? And looking at really, my notes on it. And you can see here, I then got research. So I might have in here a bunch of links. So here, maybe you have my video, but maybe this could be an entire list of research you want to look at. And I'll show that off in a second. But then we have, our notes and our goals, and we can add specific tasks here, whatever. And this is really not necessarily a place to take notes, but a place to make goals and reflect. I made a video called Goal Setting and Motivation. And I think it's really important for bug bounty hunting. It's really technical. And it can be really hard at times to really work out why you want to learn it and what you want to learn, and make sure that you're meeting your own expectations of your learning. Don't just take notes and then forget it the next day. Take notes, remember it, refer to it, look at saying, okay, you know what, a year ago, I didn't even know what bug bounties were. And now I've got an XSS bug. I'm learning how to do IDORs. I've been skilling up my ability to use tools like SQL map, whatever. So that's my to learn. So that's kind of a place I go when I'm not perhaps actively looking for XSSs. I just want to note down what I want to learn. And then we might have like anything I'm actually upskilling, something like IDOR hunting. Maybe if I decide, actually, I've been doing IDOR hunting for a while. I'm really happy with that level of knowledge. So I can stick it there, and I can visually see, actually look how much I've learned, If I have 30 things here and one thing there, actually I've learned a lot. And that can really be motivational and really drag you out when you're feeling really down on yourself. Okay, so that's the learning roadmap, and that's really a place for you to plan your success. Let's go back and let's look at research. So I've said before that it's really important to take notes, and take notes actively. Don't just passively listen to something. Don't just watch my video, go, that's interesting, and then delete it. What you want to be doing is writing notes as you listen to it. You know, do you think, oh, that DOM XSS is interesting? Maybe you want to, I talk about a resource, Portswigger Labs? Question mark? You know, stuff to look up later. It's listening to something or reading something and making sure you are not just passively listening to it. So the other things I have here is kind of a status, whether or not I've watched it, whether or not it's in progress, whether or not I finished. If you're reading really long documents, like perhaps you want to read the paper on request smuggling, that's quite a long and quite a tiring thing to read. So it might be good to just put that in progress and just come back to it the next day. And the type, you know, it's really good to note down what kind of media you're consuming, because you can't just watch videos. Videos are just not enough for you to learn. You have to be reading, you have to be listening, you have to be watching, you have to be actively engaging with the community. It's not just doing that one type of learning. And this really goes back to my how to learn bug bounty stuff, where I talk about resources. Is really not just stopping at a video, not just stopping at one podcast. It's going, okay, I'm going to eat, sleep, and fucking breathe bug bounties. I want to learn this. The URL. So one of the great things about Notion is it comes with its own web clipper. So you can just get the URLs and just get, you know, maybe you go through a newsletter, like the Bug Bites newsletter. Just go through it, every single one, add it to your Notion. You have it, you have all your notes. The tags, so what kind of bug it is. Maybe this could be what you think about it. This could be, you know, maybe it's done by a hacker you really admire, so you might want to put in there, oh, actually, this was an InsiderPhD video. Or, you know, maybe it's whatever, right? Talking about just doing it so you can look it up later. This is all about making your notes searchable. And here we link it back to our skills. Like, we want to make sure that we've got our learning roadmap, we're reflecting on it, and we've got resources for each individual goal we have. Now, this is pretty extreme, but sometimes it takes something extreme to really gain control of your organization. It's so useful to be that person who someone can go up to you and say, oh, do you know how to do this bug in this really specific circumstance? And you can go, I'm not 100% sure. Here are my notes showing a very similar circumstance. I went to this, and then I did this, and then I did this. Actually, there's this really good article. Being that person who just has all these notes is not just useful for you, it's useful for any of your collaborators as well. And it's really making you that expert. So here you can just add whatever you want to add. You know, we're not going to be restrictive. If you want to see, you know, what kind of, maybe you want to watch a video, you can add filters here. You can add type, is video, or maybe you want to listen to a podcast. You can start to organize what you're reading and listening to by these filters. There's a ton of other stuff in here. I think this is really useful for just knowing where you want to kind of read next. What are you reading? Where is it linked to? Cool, so that's the kind of learning roadmap and research. So if you've not got a bug yet, maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you're still learning and you want to gather resources. Those are the important ones for you to look at. And finally, we have CTFs. Now, CTFs is, you know, a little bit different. So here we have a list of all the CTFs. You know, we've got Hacker 101, Portswigger, Juice Shop. Let's say we start a CTF that's maybe a challenge, right? Maybe we want to do Jobert's lost document. I've got caps lock on, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. And here you can see we've got a key. We've got whether or not we've done the levels. This is like way more in depth. So let's look at another one to start with. Let's look at Hacker 101 here. So you can see here that I've got my keys of everything that I'm kind of feeling about it. So whether or not I can do it, I can't do it yet because I'm missing a skill, whether or not I need help or guidance, I'm being dumb and I just can't think. I haven't even looked at that one yet. So we've got done, in progress, brick wall, not started. So here we have, some basic notes. Just, it doesn't have to be super in depth. It's just, those notes to get you started. And if you start a new level, you just add something here and add a new level. Maybe this level is, oh god, I'm really forgetting, there is a pet shop one, I think. So maybe you're doing the pet shop. And, you got this, so you don't really change it. You might move it down here, move it around. And you might just say, look, I've hit a brick wall, I'm going to change that to red. And I'm going to move on to something else. So this is like a really interactive notebook to really visualize where you're at with CTFs in particular. So maybe we've got Web Security Academy, we've got Juice Shop, but let's look at Job's lost document, for example. We've got example levels here, notes, how did you solve it, what were you thinking? Recording what you're thinking is really important. And then you can just change the icons here. I'm being an idiot on every single one because it's not working and I don't know why. And again, changing the colors, whatever. I'll leave this for you to play with and work out how you want to use it. But this is kind of, everything else I do is more databases. That's how I would structure my notebook. Right, so that's kind of the learning side of things. Let's talk about hacking. So the first thing I've got here is go hack something. And I think it's really important for you to visually see what programs you're a part of. Don't just passively look and say, oh, I've got 30 invites, or I want to look at this program. Write them down. Write notes on what you think. What assets do they have, right? If you want to hack certain assets and you can see every private program you're a part of, that's a huge bonus. So I'm just going to kind of talk through it. We have the name here, whatever the target is. We then have the assets, so web, API, iOS, executable, source code, what have you, whatever kind of assets they have, and we can add and remove assets. What the bounties are like, are they higher than average? Are they quite low? Is it a vulnerability disclosure program? Getting that in can really help you to focus if you need to maximize your time on high value targets. That's a good way to look at it. Whether or not you want to look at, actually, I don't think low value bounties are going to be as competitive, so I'll look at lower bounties. Then we've got bugs. So if you found any bugs, once again, we'll go over this in a second. This is a related database field. So if you find a bug, writing down those notes and how you found them. Whether or not the program is over, so if it's a private program, they might run out of money and then stop. Then we've got focus on, and focus on just takes the interest level, whether or not it's finished, and just gives you a tick box about whether or not that's something to focus on or not. If your interest is really high in a program, but it's not accepting submissions, then you don't really want to see that as something to focus on, right? And then we've got an interest level, so whether or not something I'm very interested or kind of medium interested or just not interested at all. Some notes, and I'll show that off in a second. So these are notes about a program. So when I'm hacking, I'll do a timestamp and then talk about what I was thinking, how I was approaching it. The tags, so here is kind of, what industry it is. So I might want to look at the statistics for an industry. So I might say, you know what, I'm dealing with government. Actually, the most common bug is information disclosure. So I'm going to look for that one. There's other stuff in there like whether or not it's UK based. So for me, I might want to go and hack something in the UK because I know that the people who run the program they'll speak English. I'll be able to communicate really well with them. whatever. If you live in another country and your English is maybe not so great, maybe you also want to hack something local. You're also giving back to your local community, if you like. And we also have here small scope, so whether or not you want to focus on small scopes or really large scopes, both there. Some thoughts, I was interested in this, not so much anymore. Lots of different scopes though. So actually being able to take a bit of notes. Why did you find that interesting? Why didn't you find it interesting? And here I've thought I could look at the high priority assets. Really simple kind of generic thoughts. Whether or not it's public or private, or a live event. The URL associated with that, so these are both on HackerOne, with not a VPN or other security stuff. So that's targets, and the goal here is really to list all of the targets that I might want to hack. And I can go into these filters and start to say, okay, I'm looking for assets that are iOS apps. I'm looking for assets that have web. I'm looking for bounties which are kind of lower, because I think there'll be less competition. I want to look for, I don't know, ones where I have a really high interest level. Maybe I want to look at where I've put notes in, right? Whether or not I've hacked on that before. And I can do the same for bugs as well. So that's what targets do. Targets give you it stops your private programs being things you just accept and actually targets that you want to hack and focus on. So that's targets, and it has a few views here. So pulling out just the ones I'm interested in, pulling out a list of them rather than the whole big one, and then just this one, which is a squished version of it. So when I go back to clean bug bounty, it just appears here. And if I change the view, it will then be really long, and I just want to show a small amount of data on this main page. So I want to be able to see the important information. Okay, so now we're looking at the other databases. So let's look at bugs. So here is where I would list every bug that I found. Now the thing about bugs is that you have to have in your report, steps to reproduce, impact. But actually you can't reflect on that. Was it hard to find, difficult to find? What steps did you go through before you got to those final steps to reproduce? Those can be so important for following your thought process later on when you become more experienced. So, simple, what is the bug? How did you find it? The steps to reproduce the bug. What was the impact? And as you become more experienced, you might go back on kind of lower impact stuff and think, actually, this is a much higher impact because I didn't consider this, this, and this. And sometimes the bug might still be there. And you can start to really look at your old bugs as treasure maps to new ones. And some reflection. One of the most important things you can do when you create lots of notes and when you develop a skill like bug bounty hunting is to reflect upon your progress. Are you doing super well at something? Are you doing super bad? Are you learning new things? Did you find that really difficult? Did you find that really easy? You have these different kind of thoughts on something. It can be really useful just to jot them down to reflect upon them. And we have some states, have they been triaged? Was it marked as a duplicate, resolved, NA, informative? What kind of bug class it was? You might want to look at every single XSS you've ever made. The severity and the target. So this links back up to our other database here. So in Hack Something, if we open Airbnb here, we can see all the bugs we found on Airbnb and go back to that. So you can kind of do it by target or by type of bug and stuff like that. So it's connecting that all together. And if you find a new bug report, there you go. You've got the template of what was the bug. It was an XSS. How did you find it? Script alert 1, right? You might put in your bug class. You might put in whether or not resolved, the target, the severity. And again, you've got this kind of note. Okay, so that's bugs. Let's talk about notes. So this is a type of notes that you take while you're hacking something. So here we can see I made some notes on March 10th about idol hunting on the target Airbnb. And I've said, I want to focus on idol hunting. There's lots of functionality here, so it should be good to get started. I might then be saying, I found this ID and here's the burp request. I might start copying in screenshots. I might be listing URLs I'm really interested in. You can also in here create more tables, right? You can have your database of every URL you're interested in, why you're interested in it, if you've tested it for something. And you can then have that and start to search, create new views, search through the views, put the filters on, and it's there as well, and it's embedded into this note. So other things to do is that you can do things like today, and that will mention the date, and that will change as the note gets older. That will then change. It will change from today to yesterday. You can put in, maybe you've done some work and you want to say, okay, tomorrow I want to check for ID endpoints. And then you can go to tomorrow and create a reminder. So tomorrow I want to alert myself to do it. And, maybe you want to do it in several days, right? So you're on Tuesday, remind me 2 days before. And that will send you an alert. And you'll get an alert on the app to view it. So you can really create quite in-depth notes on targets. And you can copy in so much stuff in here, right? You can also export these notes as well. So maybe this is something you're really into, so you might export it. You've got PDF, HTML, Markdown, and CSV. You can include subpages in that. So yeah, that's my bug bounty notebook. So this obviously hasn't got my real notes in it, and I do have real notes. But I really hope this has been useful. If you want to use my template, like I said, there'll be a links to this one, which is the dark mode, and this one, which is a light mode version. So if you're like me, sorry, I probably just blinded you, and prefer light mode, then you can look in same thing, just dark mode versus light mode. I'm going to include a referral link, which apparently gives you $10, so you can try it for I think 2 months. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't actually get anything from you using that, because I have a free account because I'm a student, and I get my account for free. So rest assured, if you don't want to give me any free money, you don't have to, and you won't be. Yeah, I hope this has been an interesting video. All the links will be down below. I hope it's given you some ideas. Maybe you want to go away and create your own notebooks. If you do that, please send me screenshots on Twitter. I'd love to see how you use this piece of software. So thank you very, very much for watching. Next week is going to be all about how to write reports. And it'll be the final episode in the Finding Your First Bug series. And yeah, I hope you find it interesting. I will see you all next week.